At the start of this year, I traded in the 40-degree temperatures of an Australian summer for the sub-zero temperatures of an English winter. Contrary to appearances, not insane. In fact, the purpose of the trip was to reconnect with relatives and old friends, and while it was most definitely a social trip, I did, of course, take my XT4 and a couple of small lenses with me in case any cool landscape photography opportunities presented themselves. For various unfortunate reasons, those opportunities were in fact few and far between, but I did get lucky during the week we spent in Norfolk on the eastern side of the UK. After checking the sky forecast, I got up early one bitterly cold January morning and headed out into the country lanes of rural Norfolk, hoping for a bit of sunrise colour. I was completely unfamiliar with the location, had done no research, no recce, and had absolutely no idea what I would find, but I hope my experience would enable me to leverage the moment into some decent shots. When I go out and take photographs, I don't tend to stand there and think big thoughts about a scene, stroking my beard as I weigh up the pros and cons of tripod height, dew point, and aperture. Instead, I take photographs quite quickly, operating just on instinct. I didn't make a deliberate decision to work that way, and I'm not suggesting it's superior in any way. It's just the style that works best for me. And it was while I was processing the photos I took that frosty Norfolk morning that I realised actually I'd worked my way through some of the most common compositional techniques in that one early morning shoot. I was trying to bring some variety to what might otherwise have been quite restrictive photographic environment by mixing things up as much as possible. When you're in a quite samey location, you're kind of forced to get a bit more inventive. So I'd like to walk you through some of the resulting photographs and show you the various compositional techniques that I used. This was actually one of the first shots of the morning, taken a short distance from where I was staying. As soon as I saw this road with its long straight section, I knew it would make a great candidate for leading lines and vanishing points. There were a couple of compositional options with this shot, and I tried them all, but I like this one the best, with the vanishing point situated in the centre of the frame and the road boundaries, marked white line, and even the furrows on the field all leading to that central point. Other things to note are that firstly, the tree is almost in the centre of the frame too, adding a nice little point of focus, and secondly, that sunrise colour is a perfect gradient from orange to blue, left to right. Side note, this was actually a pretty busy road, and I had to make several quick jumps out to the verge, so choose your highway wisely if you're going to try this kind of shot. As I was walking down the country lane, I spotted the rainwater collected in the furrows on the edge of a recently ploughed field. Put the circular polarizer on my lens, put the camera down to ground level and shot in the direction of the rising sun. The problem with this sunrise was that the best colour was concentrated in a band just above the horizon, but by getting low and shooting the reflections, I was able to double the amount of colour in the shot. On a technical note, it's important to point out that circular polarizers do fulfill a dual function. Yes, they can cut through things like surface reflections, but the opposite is also true, and they're great for increasing reflectivity in water. One of the problems with photographic techniques, such as the rule of thirds, is that it can be overused and make photographs look a bit samey. So I gleefully jettisoned the rule of thirds in this shot in order to make use of negative space. I included only a sliver of field at the bottom of the frame, then the silhouetted trees, and then a great big sky. I made sure not to shoot this one with the old circular polarizer on the lens, because it would have made that region of blue sky in the top right of the frame too dark. Repetition and rhythm can be useful compositional tools, and that's what I was aiming for with this image, which is actually a pano stitched from 6 vertical shots. The trees are quite similar and all have the same sort of height, which greatly helps with the effect. Furthermore, that hedgerow serves as a leading line, taking your eyes from that first tree on the right to the ones in the far distance on the left. I would perhaps have made this pano a bit narrower, but for the fact that the full moon was setting behind the clouds, and it made for a fantastic punctuation mark in the image, surrounded by lovely pastel clouds. I spent a bit of time trying to find a frame for the sun as it rose above the horizon of the flat Norfolk countryside, and was happy to happen upon this composition in the hedgerow. I was immediately drawn to the straight lines of the branches and the fact that they formed an open-ended rectangle. By standing on my tippy toes, I was able to position the sun in the centre of the rectangle and thereby create a pleasing natural frame for the sun and the golden light surrounding it. Note also the symmetry of the shot, with the colour in the sky contrasting the muted tones of the field in the lower portion of the frame. Who doesn't love a nice sunburst? They're a brilliant way of accenting a bright light, such as the sun. In this case, I pushed the camera as far to the left of the lane as possible to get that foreground tree in, but still have plenty of space for the sun. To recreate this effect, you first have to choose a small aperture. This shot was taken f/16, and secondly, for the full effect, the light source should be partially obscured. It is, of course, entirely routine to combine several different compositional techniques into a single shot, and that's definitely the case with this, my last example. For starters, we have the natural frame of the hedgerow, showing the fields and the church beyond. We have a layered effect with foreground, midground and background layers all clearly defined. We have the rule of thirds, with the church falling on a line roughly 2/3 into the frame. And finally, we have textures and patterns helping define the layers, with the stubble in the field contrasting with the hedgerow and the sky. I'm not much of a traditionalist when it comes to landscape photography, and don't feel the need to stand there and think about a scene before I press this shutter button. There's definitely much more in the way of big thinking photographers here on YouTube, but I just wanted to speak up for the alternatives in case you two find it a restrictive way of work. And that will do us for this compositional roundup. You got something out of this little video? If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more photo, video and drone related content from yours truly. Till the next time, guys. Ta-ta!